Once again, welcome. My name is Tim Cook. I'm from Excedo Consulting. I will be your facilitator for tonight. Thank you for joining the central breakout room. During the presentation, attendees should stay muted. And like I said, if we need to have some, further discussion, I'll, let people know when they can come off of mute. To maximize input, we'll be using Slido during participant interaction. Our moderator has copied the Slido participant code in the chat. This is a different code from the practice Slido exercise in the main room. So the code for our room is MPOT 2035 C2. The C is in central, and then the number 2. If you go to slido.com, enter that. If you want to use the QR code, we will have the QR code come up when we get to our first question. So as mentioned in the main room, I just want to also mention that the breakout room is being recorded. Tonight, I'm joined by Alex Rixey from our project management team. Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Rixey with Fair & Peers. I'm the deputy project manager for the consultant team on the project, and I'm here to help answer questions tonight. And I'll probably stay off video unless we get into a discussion so that the focus can stay on Tim, but I'll probably pipe in at different points to provide some clarifications. I'm looking forward to hearing from you all.
Thanks, Alex. All right, so as mentioned in the main room presentation, community feedback is essential to the MPOT planning process. We began soliciting feedback in the fall during the agency and municipal meetings. In this breakout room, we're going to present on 6 major transportation themes, and we'll share the initial feedback we received on these themes. Then it's your turn. We want to know your thoughts on the themes and the previous feedback we received. Please post any questions you have in the chat. We will have a brief Q&A period at the end of the presentation. Also, let us know if you're having issues with Slido. You can let us know in the chat, but we won't get there until about 7 slides from now. So let's get this started. The central breakout room is the area in Prince George's County. We've broken it up north, central, and south. So US 50 is our northern border. Maryland 214 is our central main state road through the central corridor, with a portion of the Capital Beltway, 495. And then our southern area is Maryland 4, the upper Marlboro area. Our first theme that we're going to talk about tonight is active transportation. So what is active transportation? Active transportation is the transport of people or goods through non-motorized means, and that's human physical activity. So biking, walking, skateboarding, roller skating. So back at the meetings in the fall that we held with the agencies and municipalities, we asked 3 different questions for active transportation. We asked, what are the biggest impediments to building new trails? We asked, what are the most significant gaps in the trail system? And we also asked, how can the master plan of transportation help improve trail development and trail maintenance? And so we heard back from the agencies and the municipalities during those meetings, and here's what they told us. They told us the impediments for existing and future trails and paths included political priorities and funding realities, lack of ownership regarding maintenance, difficulties finding available right-of-way and property information, and a lack of trail connectivity. The trail system gaps identified are in Laurel, Hyattsville, the Chilham area into the District of Columbia, Rhode Island and Charles Armentrout Drive intersection, and then state road crossings at Maryland 193, Maryland 202, and Maryland 201. And then the suggested improvements we saw were reassessing current trails and encouraging maintenance schedules, creating uniform wayfinding and lighting, and educating the public about active transportation. And so with that, we get to our first question for feedback from you all tonight. So in your view, what is missing from active transportation feedback? If you are joining us at slido.com, you just put in the hashtag MPOT 2035, letter C, and then 2, or you can scan the QR code in the upper left-hand corner of the presentation, and that will bring you into the Slido. you have any questions, we've also provided that information in the chat. I'll wait till we start getting some feedback. As we can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attendee participants tonight, and we really do value your feedback. That's why we're meeting here tonight. So if you can, please use the Slido tool. If you're having trouble and you want to just give us your verbal feedback, you can certainly come off of mute and do that as well, but it's a lot easier for us to capture the information if you're doing it in Slido. So again, our first question is, in your view, what is missing from the active transportation feedback? Give everybody a minute or so to get their answers in. Again, slido.com, put in the hashtag MPOT 2035C2. So I'm not seeing anyone putting in feedback. If people would like to come off of mute to provide any feedback. Okay, here we go. We got our first piece of feedback. Connection from Central County to Anacostia tributary trail system crossing, and then the crossing at 214 and 202 is dangerous on foot. That is the exact type of feedback we're looking for. Very much detailed. The crossing at 214 and 202 being dangerous on foot is exactly the type of detailed feedback we're looking for. I'll give everybody about 60 more seconds. Again, you can scan the QR code with your camera, and that will take you on your phone or your tablet to Slido, and you can put your answer in there, or you can use a web browser and go to slido.com and put in the hashtag MPOT 2035C2. All right, we got more answers. So bicycle connection, we need more bicycle connections throughout the Largo and Bowie areas. And then there are no bike lanes on Maryland 214. Again, thank you. Those are excellent pieces of feedback. Give everybody about 20 more seconds, and then we'll move on to our second theme. Thelma, if I could ask you just to mute, just so that we don't hear the background noise, it'd be much appreciated. I appreciate you doing that. All righty. All right, so that looks like that's the feedback for question number 1. Let's move on to our second theme. Our second theme is Vision Zero. So what is Vision Zero? Vision Zero is a countywide strategy to achieve 0 fatalities and serious injuries on roadways by 2040. Prince George's County recognizes that the loss of even one life or one serious injury on our roads is unacceptable. Vision Zero is a data-driven approach that reveals that vehicle crashes are predictable and thus are preventable. Crash data shows that there is a clear need for safety improvements on our roadways. The key to success in achieving Vision Zero is a combined approach using the 6 essential elements for a safe transportation system. So there's been the traditional approach to traffic fatalities, and then there's Vision Zero. So the traditional approach tells us that traffic deaths are inevitable. Vision Zero says that no, all traffic deaths are preventable. Traditional approach says that perfect human behavior is expected to avoid crashes. Vision Zero acknowledges that there will be human failure and incorporates that into the approach for preventing fatal and severe crashes. The traditional approach just wants to prevent collisions. Vision Zero wants to prevent fatal and severe crashes. The traditional approach says that it's an individual responsibility. Vision Zero says that it's a system-wide approach. It's on all of us in order to get down to 0 deaths. And the traditional approach always said that saving lives is expensive. Vision Zero says that saving lives is not expensive. So the three questions we asked at the breakout or at the meetings with the agency and municipality leaders in the fall were, what are some of the impediments to implementing Vision Zero? How can the master plan of transportation help achieve Vision Zero goals? And are there safety improvements in one part of the county that you would like to see in another region of the county? Here's the feedback that they gave us. The impediments when it came to Vision Zero, to implementing it, included limited funding and political will, the education and driver behaviors, wide roads, and a lack of collaboration. So how can the MPOT help achieve Vision Zero goals? Can encourage the public participation in interagency coordination. That's really key. Interagency coordination is key to Vision Zero. Also incorporating safety infrastructure into developmental proposals. And then the groups, the agency and the municipal leaders wanted to see more pedestrian facilities, protected bike lanes, tactical urbanism, and improved urban design standards and roadways. And with that, we get to our second question, and that is, in your view, what is missing from Vision Zero feedback? So again, using Slido. Gonna jump in the Slido here. So what is missing from Vision Zero, in your opinion? Let people start getting their answers in again. Slido.com. Enter in the hashtag MPOT 2035 C2. That'll get you in for the whole meeting. Or you can scan the QR code and that'll do the same. And whenever we have a question up on the screen, that question will show up on your phone, tablet, or on your web browser tab. So I'll give a few minutes for everyone to get their feedback in. All right. First one, pedestrian crossings that work and that give more time. That's always an issue, spend more time, especially in the urban areas where you're looking to move traffic equally. You can't forget about the pedestrians that are also trying to cross. Consideration of overdevelopment on already crowded roads such as Maryland 214. And then we had someone say, I agree with the previous feedback and would really echo the community education piece. And that is that is key. We believe that education is really fundamental to Vision Zero. It's right there with enforcement. It's a key part of making this. Alex has come on screen. I'll let him speak to give a few words here.
Yeah, I'd be curious. This is really great feedback. I very much appreciate it. And I'm curious for whoever posted the note about ped crossings that work. More time definitely makes sense. I'm interpreting that as, enough time to safely cross the roadway before the flashing don't walk or the don't walk are displayed. For ped crossings that work, I'd be curious to know what's not working about the ped crossings, if it's if there's a maintenance issue with the ped heads not showing up, or what the issue might be. So if anybody who put that in wants to clarify, that would be much appreciated.
Yep. Is it in more, is it on state roads where you don't have enough time to get across? Is that one of the issues with a ped crossing not working? Is it something else? You can put that in Slido. Or if you'd like to come off of mute to tell us, that's also perfectly acceptable. You can also throw your any answers in the chat. So we'll give a minute or two to see if anyone's got any follow-up feedback.
And I guess Tim and Patrick, we'd very much like to hear from folks live on the on the line tonight, but I think there are also going to be some options at the end to share additional comments and questions after the fact if those come up. Is that right?
Yep, yep, that is
Right.
correct. And we've got one in the chat. Competing interests with drivers turning. No,
Oh, I
no
see.
problem, Halima. If I apologize if I said your name wrong. Okay, we will note that down. We also had pedestrian crossings on country roads almost non-existent. That is that's a definite issue in some parts of the county.
Great. Yeah, the conflicts between turning drivers and crossing pedestrians is definitely an important one. Thanks for sharing that.
All right, so I'll give everybody about 30 more seconds and then we'll move on. Again, your feedback is key. That's why we're holding these meetings this week. We want to get your feedback so that we can take that back and put that consideration into the MPOT 2035 plan. And make sure that it aligns with the issues that the community sees, that the community knows about, that the community deals with on a daily basis. All right, so like I said, again, if there's any, you can also throw that in the chat, but we will move on to our next theme. All right, so our third theme of the night is transit. So what is transit? In this study, transit is motorized public transportation, such as buses, bus rapid transit, and rail transit. So the MPOT's going to do four things. It's going to identify four different things. First thing, it's going to identify locations within the county that can be considered high congestion / low transit corridors. It's going to identify best practices for addressing transportation concerns in these corridors. It's going to identify roadways and transit infrastructure that may require additional infrastructure to achieve long-term mode share goals. And it's going to identify the next large-scale transit corridor in the county and identify additional potential future bus transit corridors. Again, in the fall, when we asked the agencies and staff, we asked them two questions for transit. Where do you see transit in Prince George's County in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And then what are your priorities, concerns, and opportunities for transit? So for transit feedback, what we heard from the agency and municipal leaders back in the fall was what people want to see in 5 to 15 years is a wider transit network, more frequent service and late night weekend service, connecting transit-oriented development areas, better pedestrian facilities to increase transit ridership, and reorienting development to the street. The transit priorities that folks wanted to see included equity of access, connecting workers to jobs, dealing with the quote last mile problem unquote. And let me just define last mile for everyone. Last mile in transportation planning is the last leg of a journey comprising the movement of people and goods from a transportation hub to a final destination. Then there's also focusing on a connected road system and the reliability and the ease of use for transit. And that brings us to our third question of the night. So in your view, what is missing from transit feedback? What do you want to see from transit in Prince George's County as part of the master plan of 2035? So we'll take, again, a few minutes to let people get their answers in. Like we said, if you're having trouble with Slido, or you can put your answers in the chat, or feel free to come off of mute and provide your feedback verbally. So bus shelters are something that's missing from transit in Prince George's County in the central region. What else?
Yeah, while folks are thinking of their other feedback, but bus shelters is a great one, and there's a sustainability component to the work that we're doing. And one of the things that we'll be considering there is the potential need for additional shelter from the elements if we're expecting more extreme weather events or more extreme heat, making it possible for people to continue to take transit in comfort and in safety, being sheltered while they're waiting for the bus. So that's an excellent piece of feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Alex. Especially when you are, we all, right now we're in the winter, so bus shelters keeping us from the wind and the snow and the sleet, the ice and the freezing rain. But it's also just as important in the summer when it's 100 degrees and you're waiting for your transit to arrive, and you need some shelter from the sun or from heavy rain. Is there anything else that folks think is missing from transit feedback in the master plan? And again, I want to encourage everyone, and we'll get to this at the end of the breakout room, but if you come up with something that you want to tell us after tonight's meeting is over, we have a survey link where you're going to be able to fill that out and provide any additional feedback. So if you go to sleep tonight and wake up in the morning and realize, I wanted to, say something else about, transit, what was missing, you'll be able to do that by going to that survey or contacting Park and Planning directly, which we'll tell you about it when we get to the end of the breakout room. And also with their virtual meeting hours that will be starting soon. So I don't see any more answers coming up. So I'm going to move on to our fourth theme. That is roadways. So roadways, MPOT will do four things. It's going to evaluate the master plan right-of-ways for all roadway classifications. It's going to identify where additional roadways should be proposed for future construction. It's going to assess existing and identify possible designation of scenic and historic roadways. And it's going to identify roadways that may require additional infrastructure to support an adequate level of service for current or expected mode share. So the two questions we asked the agency and municipal leaders back in the fall for roadways were, what roadway elements and factors has Prince George's County seen since 2009 that would impact the roadway facility recommendations in the new MPOT? And then the second question was, what specific issues or considerations should be addressed in the update for the MPOT as part of the scenic and historic road designation process or application of special design standards for these designated roadways? And here is the feedback that we got back from those folks in the fall. So the factors that have changed since the 2009 MPOT included budgetary constraints and more maintenance, right-of-way, that's what ROW is, right-of-way widths for utilities, trails, and bike lanes, federal infrastructure money, more accidents, an increased emphasis on non-vehicular travel and electric vehicles, changing growth and commute patterns, and then changing corridors, including rural roads, US 1, US 301, and Maryland 4. And then the scenic and historic roadway considerations include driver and bicycle safety, accommodating utilities, and the need for a quantifiable scale to designate scenic roadways. And with that, we are coming to our fourth question, and that is, in your view, what is missing from the roadways feedback? I'm going to ask Alex to come back and maybe, get a little bit of discussion, maybe get a couple of talking points to get people thinking about what's potentially missing so that we can get your feedback here for this question. So once again, in your
Sure,
view,
yeah,
what's
thanks, Tim.
missing? No problem.
Yeah, I think we're really looking for anything that's affecting the way you're traveling on road in Prince George's County. And so we have the, you know, the active transportation and transit pieces already. If other things have occurred to you in those spaces, feel free to share them now. But this is trying to hone in a little more on the vehicular movement within the county. But also, as Tim mentioned, there's the consideration of historic and scenic roadways. And so if there are thoughts about those, how they're working for all users or might not be working for all users. That's the kind of feedback we'd be looking for in this section.
Yep. Thank you very much, Alex. Again, if you don't want to put this in at Slido, you can put it in the chat or feel free to come off of mute. Again, in your view, what's missing from the roadways feedback? All right, so we got one piece feedback came in. Rural roads turning into more congested roadways. That's interesting. I'd be interested in hearing more about that. Here's another one. Older exits are no longer able to handle the large volume of traffic. An example, the exit from 214 to the exit on 301 North is a left exit onto 301. High rates of speed for traffic already traveling on 301 northbound makes it a dangerous exit. That's a great comment. Let's go back to Alex real quick.
Yeah, thank you. These are both great pieces of feedback, and thanks for the really specific example. On the rural roads turning into more congested roadways, that's definitely something we'll be looking into. One of the tasks of technical analysis that we're doing is this concept of high congestion, low transit roadways, and so looking at places where we are experiencing increased congestion on the roadway, but the land use patterns or the transportation network might not necessarily be the best suited for new transit service as a solution. So we'll be thinking about other solutions for helping to ease congestion on those locations. And then the exit from 214 onto 301, that's a fantastic note because we're doing a specific study on the 301 corridor or specific analysis on the 301 corridor as part of this study. So we'll definitely pass that along to the team. So they'll be looking into that. So yeah, thanks for that feedback.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Yep, that's a great example. I'll give everybody about 30 more seconds. I know if you're typing a lot, that can take a little bit. I'm glad we didn't move on those. Both of those comments are excellent and will really help us when we bring these back to the team. I'll give everybody about 30 more seconds. And then once we get done with this question, we'll pause for a second. Have a few more people joining us. Welcome to the central breakout room. Currently on our fourth theme of the night, roadways feedback.
Good evening. This is Janice. I had that exit, that comment for 214, but
Yes.
I didn't want this to end before I could say another comment.
Sure.
My other concern is there's so much development on 301 that I'm not sure they're considering the approval of development projects, in relation to all the traffic that's already on the highway. So it's development is a part of the problem. It's a lot of development going on in the 214, 301 area. So, there's nowhere to widen the road. So I just think this all needs to be thought of together, development and what you guys are doing here. What kind of a development projects are being approved?
Completely agree. Thank you, Janice. That's great feedback. Thank you for following up on that example and sharing that.
You're welcome. Thanks.
All right, so if we let me give 30 more seconds because and again, like Janice did, if you would like to come off of mute, please, you're more than welcome to, and we will take your comment. We'd of course like to take it on Slido because it's the easiest way for us to gather all the feedback, but I just took down a note on Janice's follow-up to her Slido feedback, and we very, very much appreciate that.
Tim, this is Rick from the consultant team.
Yes.
We were just in this South group, and we've elected to merge the South and Central, bring the South folks into the Central group to expand the conversation. And so the new participants you're seeing coming into this group are probably those that have come from the South group.
Okay, well, thank you. So this is a great time to join because we're about to just reset. So right now I'll do a check-in. It's 7 o'clock. We are halfway through our 60-minute allotment for our breakout room session tonight. If you are coming from the South group, our QR code is not our QR code, I'm sorry. Our hashtag for Slido.com is MPOT 2035, C as in Central, and then the number 2. And then when we get to our next question, if you want to scan the QR code, it'll be in the top left-hand corner, and we can, and that'll get you into Slido as well. We also are offering, if anyone wants to put their answer in the chat, that's fine. Also, if anyone wants to come off of mute and give verbal feedback, that's also welcome. So 7:01, let's keep on going. We've definitely got another full 30 minutes of information, and then we'll get to your questions and answers at the end. So theme number 5 is sustainability. So how does sustainability apply in transportation? Sustainable transportation refers to any means of transportation that is quote unquote green and has low impact on the environment. Sustainable transportation is also about balancing our current and future needs. So what we saw, some of the examples of sustainability in transportation include improving freight efficiency, increasing public transportation, enhancing electric vehicle infrastructure, utilizing green construction, maximizing smart growth, integrating land use, promoting green highways, and supporting bike-friendly communities. So back in the fall, when we asked the public agencies and the municipality leaders, we asked them, sustainability can have many meanings. Which one of these aspects of sustainability have the most significant impact on your agency? And for both the agencies and the municipalities, it was environmental sustainability, followed by fiscal sustainability, which was a lot higher on the public agency side than the municipal side, and then cultural/social sustainability, which was higher on the municipality side. And let me just define those 3 types of sustainability, because sometimes we need a little bit more in-depth definition. So environmental sustainability encourages practices that reduce the environmental impacts from transportation systems. So greenhouse gas emissions, pollutants, stormwater management. Fiscal sustainability is ensuring the availability of resources for the ongoing operation and long-term maintenance of transportation investments. And then social/cultural sustainability ensures that transportation infrastructure provides equitable benefits for all users and does not create disparate impacts on communities in the county. And I think for that last one, the really key word in that definition is equitable. So we asked both the public agencies and municipalities what other aspects of sustainability are important to you. And what we heard back was maintenance, economic sustainability, state of good repair, infrastructure, life of the project, operational resiliency, supply chain, and equity. That's what we heard back from both the agencies and the municipal leaders. So now we get to our question number 5. So sustainability can have many meanings. Which of these aspects of sustainability have the most significant impact on you? And we want you to choose your top 3. So once again, for the new folks who came from the South group, you can scan the QR code at the top left-hand corner of the presentation, and that'll bring you into Slido. Or you can join us at slido.com and type in the hashtag MPOT 2035, C as in Central, and then the number 2. And I will give a few minutes to let everyone get their feedback in here so far. Environmental sustainability, resiliency, and equity for one person were their top 3 choices. That impacts them. I'd like to hear from everybody else. All right, so environmental still at the top, but cultural and economic, resiliency and equity are all at 50%. Got our third response, environmental still at the top, but equity coming in second, followed by a 3-way tie with fiscal, cultural, and economic sustainability. All right, we got a 4th participant. Came in still environmental has been chosen by all 4 respondents. Equity is second, and then cultural socials third, followed by fiscal and economic in a tie for 4th. Let me see, Alex, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this question for the discussion?
No, I think it's great to get this feedback, and if anybody isn't able to do it through Slido, yeah, feel free to put it in the chat or to come off mute now. I just want to remind folks that fiscal sustainability, cultural social sustainability, and environmental sustainability were the 3 that we had prompted the agency municipal stakeholders with in the last round of engagement, and the other topics were ones that they have added. So would also welcome any additional sustainability concepts or ideas you'd like to discuss on this call. You know, essentially under the heading, how can we make transportation in Prince George's County more sustainable?
Yeah, and if there's an other that comes up, you can put that in the chat. You can, feel free to come off of mute. So we'll give everybody another minute or so. Get your answers in. Again, reason we're here tonight is to get your feedback. We really, really, really value your feedback, and that's going to help drive the MPOT 2035 document. All right, give about another 30 seconds, then we'll move on to our next slide. And again, for the new folks, at the end of the breakout room, we'll just give you a link to a survey, which you can put in any additional feedback if you go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow with an answer that you wished you would have given tonight. You can put that in the survey. We'll also give you contact information for the folks at Park and Planning, and also give you the days and times where we're starting virtual office hours that you can talk one-on-one with a county planner. So with that, I don't see any more answers, so we're going to move on. So we're at our 6th and last theme, goals and success indicators. And this theme is going to be a little bit longer than the other themes. It's also going to have a couple of questions instead of just one. There's going to be, I believe, 2. So when we get to there, again, we value your feedback greatly and want to hear from you. So. All right, so the elements of a successful transportation system, question and feedback. So we asked in the fall to the public agencies and the municipalities, what are the key elements of a successful transportation system for your agency? And as you can see from the word cloud, both believe that safety is a high priority. The municipalities also believe that accessibility was right up there with safety. And then both groups thought that, multimodal was right there as the next, as the next answer to that question. I'll read off some of the other: mobility, equity, connectivity, congestion, walkability, mobility, mass transit, public safety, connectivity, inexpensive, handicapped accessible, safe protection, affordability. I get affordability going with the inexpensive. So those were some of the elements of feedback that we got from the public agencies and municipality leaders when we talked to them in the fall. So I asked them a second question, and that question was: Prince George's Plan 2035 identified several transportation-related themes. Please rank the themes in order of importance to your agency. So for the public agencies and for the municipalities, they both had this number one same concern in terms of importance, and that was safety. Then for the agencies, it was multimodality followed by accessibility. That was switched up for the municipalities. They had accessibility, then multimodality, and then they both came in with affordability as the fourth, and then energy efficiency fifth. So now we get to our sixth question for you on Slido. Prince George's Plan 2035 identified several transportation-related themes. Please rank the themes in order of importance to you. And so I will give everyone a couple moments to select those that are important to you, and let me welcome back Alex.
Yeah, and while folks are considering these, I know some of these terms might be a little nebulous or might be a little technical, so just some additional information on them. So when we're thinking about accessibility in this context, we're thinking about your ability to get to destinations throughout the county and throughout the region. So do you have access using the transportation system to get to where you need to go and in a timely manner? Affordability is really about personal affordability. So can you as a traveler afford to get to where you're going? And is that not burdensome on your overall household budget? So is that, if you're traveling by car, is the total cost of your car ownership or lease, your fuel, your maintenance, and the amount and the distances that you have to drive, does that all work out to be affordable for you? If you're traveling by transit, are those fares affordable? And similarly, traveling by bicycle, that you have the equipment that you need. Energy efficiency is, can you move throughout the county expending as little energy as possible from a fuel perspective? So whether that's fossil fuels in your vehicle or electricity, or is the transportation system that's provided by transit overall energy efficient? Multimodality, do you have access to a variety of different options? Can you walk, bike, take transit, drive to where you need to go? And then, of course, safety is avoiding harm to all travelers in the system, whether they're driving, walking, biking, taking transit, et cetera.
Thanks, Alex. So if anyone wants to come off a mute or place an answer in the chat, please feel free to do that. Again, we want to hear from you. I'll give everyone, since this is a little bit more of a complicated question, I'm going to give everybody about another minute and a half to get their answer in. So we see accessibility and safety are tied for first, affordability and multimodality are tied for second, and then energy efficiency coming up the rear. Safety still, we got 3 answers in now. Safety still leading, followed closely by accessibility. I think both of those make sense. You want to be safe. You want to get to where you're going every day in a safe manner. You also want as many options. That's where accessibility comes into play. If you're doing this on your mobile phone or your tablet, you just click next to the one you want first, click the little bubble, and then it'll put it in order for you. Should be similar on the web browser version of Slido as well. All right, I'll give everybody another 30 seconds, and then we will move on. Like I said, please feel free if you want to come off the mute, just say your name and give your comment, and be happy to take that down manually as well. All righty, folks, we're going to move on. All right, so as part of transportation equity, we asked the public agencies and the municipality leaders, what are your top 3 transportation equity concerns? And the answers were, well, the answers that they were given were affordability, accessibility, mobility, need, ability, and other. And so for both groups, accessibility was first, and then affordability was second for the municipalities, followed by mobility, whereas for the agencies, affordability and mobility were tied for second. So what are your top 3 transportation equity concerns? And Alex just went over those definitions again, but if anyone wants to get another definition for any of these answers, just let us know in the chat or raise your hand, come off mute, and we'll be happy to do that as well. So if you can give us your top 3 transportation equity concerns. All right, so we got 2 answers in. Accessibility leading the way, with affordability is second, mobility and other third and fourth. We got 3 answers in.
Great. And Tim, sorry, I forget our functionality here, but for folks who enter other, are they given a prompt to be able to enter that through Slido?
They are not. So if you do choose other, if you wouldn't mind just throwing that in the chat, that would be very helpful, because
hi, Tim and Alex. I think it is an option. Let me see.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure we capture that. So if it's possible to enter it in Slido, that's awesome, and we'll capture it that way. But if not, if you want to come off mute or share it in the chat, we'd love to hear your other ideas about equity.
Yep. All right, so we got 5 people in. So affordability, number 1, accessibility, second, and then we got a 3-way tie with ability, mobility, and other. So if you're one of those others, you can drop a note in the chat, or if you want to come off of mute, please feel free to. And we will manually take down your answer. Give everybody a couple more seconds here. And like I've been saying, when we get to the end, we'll provide you with a few other methods for how you can leave us feedback. Whether it's over the next week or the next couple weeks, you'll have some different opportunities outside of this meeting tonight to provide feedback. And then we also are asking for feedback throughout the entire process, but we're doing it, one step at a time. So I'll give everybody about 30 more seconds. If I don't see any movement on the Slido, we'll go to the next slide. All righty, let's continue on. All right, so some more success indicators. What we asked, Prince George's Plan 2035 identified several transportation-related success indicators. Please rank the indicators in order of importance to your agency or municipality. So both the agencies and municipalities said that increasing bicycle and pedestrian facilities constructed was a clear number one, both at 4.84 and 4.82, almost identical. Switched up a little bit for the next couple answers. So agencies wanted to see increasing non-automobile mode share. So that would be, well, I'll actually have Alex come on after I'm done reading this and he can better define these for you guys. Decreasing vehicle miles traveled, maintaining level of service, and then increasing housing and transportation affordability. And so the feedback we got from the municipalities was a little bit different after both the agencies and municipalities agreed on number one. Municipalities said that increasing housing and transportation affordability was number two. Maintaining level of service was their third most important. Their fourth most was reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then their fifth was increasing non-auto mode shares. Alex, if you wouldn't mind coming back on and if you can define non-auto mode share, the decreasing vehicle miles traveled and level of service, I think that may help some people for our next question.
Sure thing. Yeah, I know those are some of the more technical ones. So starting with vehicle miles traveled is just the total annual number of miles that are traveled in automobiles in all the roadways in the county. So if you count up the total distance that everyone is driving on all the roads in Prince George's County, that's vehicle miles traveled. So the idea would be to reduce that. Level of service is a little bit of a technical planning and engineering term, but it's an auto-oriented measure that measures the ratio of vehicle volumes to the capacities of the transportation facilities. If you think about an intersection and the number of cars that can pass through that intersection, it's the ratio of the vehicles that are traveling through it to the total capacity, or that could also apply in our roadway segment. And then the last one, non-auto mode share, is the percentage of travelers that are using different types of transportation to work. So the idea of this indicator is to see the percentage of auto trips decreasing, but the other staying the same or increasing. And so the available modes for this particular measure that were used were public transportation to work, walking, bicycling, and working at home. All of those options would count as non-auto mode share, whereas driving in your car would be part of the auto mode share.
Thanks a lot, Alex. I think that helps people define that when we get to our next question. So question number 8, Prince George's Plan 2035 identified several transportation-related success indicators. Please rank the indicators in order of importance to you. And all of those indicators were examples that you just saw on the prior question. Again, feel free to come off of mute if you need a definition for one of these, or drop a note in the chat. Hey, what's maintaining level of service again? And we'll be happy to answer that so that we can get your feedback into this Slido question.
Yeah, the one other one that might be a little unclear is increasing commuting patterns to and within the county. The idea there is that the number of commuters who are traveling Prince George's County residents able to find employment within the county or not having to leave the county to find employment. So trying to increase the balance of importing workers into the county so that folks in the county don't have to travel as far to find employment.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Yes, that is a little bit wordy. All right, I'm gonna give a couple more seconds for everyone. Again, the question is Prince George's Plan 2035 identified several transportation related success indicators. Please rank the indicators in the order of importance to you. All right, so we got our first answer in. Increasing bicycle and pedestrian facilities constructed was the most important, followed by reducing greenhouse emissions. That's changed now that we got our second answer in. So still, bike and ped facilities constructed is a clear number one so far. Decreasing vehicle miles traveled and transportation affordability is coming in second, with reducing greenhouse gas emissions third, and then non-auto mode share and level of service and increasing commuting patterns to and within the county near the bottom. So if anyone doesn't or isn't able to fill this out on Slido for whatever reason, if you want to drop your top three or even just your top one into the chat, that's fine. Or if you'd like to come off of mute and give us your order, we'll take that down manually as well. Give another minute or so for folks to rank these indicators in the order of importance to you. Alrighty, we got a third that just came in. Still increasing bicycle and ped facilities constructed, still number one. Decreasing vehicle miles is 2, and then we have a tie for 3 at transportation affordability and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And again, before we end this breakout room, we'll describe other areas where you can provide feedback outside of this meeting, both in the near term and throughout the whole MPOT 2035 process. So I'll give about 30 more seconds for folks to order this, and then we will move on to our next slide. Just want to say I appreciate everyone who is filling out the Slido. We do very, very much value your feedback. And that is without your feedback and knowing what's going on in the communities where you live, that helps make this MPOT 2035 more valuable to the community. All righty, so I'm going to move on to our next slide. So our engagement timeline. First, I want to note before, I'll go over the timeline first. So in September of 2021, we met with the Active Transportation Advisory Group. As we've said over the last, over all 6 themes, we met with county agency and municipal leaders back in November of 2021. Tonight, we are virtually holding community engagement meetings. We held one last night. We're holding one tonight. We'll hold one tomorrow night. They're all 3 same content-wise, and you won't hear anything new at tomorrow night's meeting. So if you've attended tonight, you're all set. April of this year, we'll prepare draft existing conditions report, and then we're going to come back later this spring with community advisory group meetings. And I do want to note that the municipality meeting from November, along with a complete streets presentation, are on the project website. And our moderator, Pat, will place the project website in the chat at some point if he hasn't already. So the project steps, project schedule, next steps. So July of 2021, the planning board initiation took place. April of 2022, we'll do a staff existing conditions analysis. July of 2022, and this is tentative, we'll have a staff draft plan. Pat just put the project website in the chat, so you can go there, like I said, for that municipality meeting and the Complete Streets presentation. November of 2022, we will tentatively, that date, have the public release of the staff draft plan. January of 2023, we'll do our first joint public hearing. April of 2023, we'll have the planning board adoption of the MPOT. June of 2023, we'll have the council approval and amendments. And then September of 2023, we'll have approval with the second joint public hearing. So engagement opportunities, and I've been talking about these a lot throughout all 6 themes tonight. We'll have an online survey that is going to be open from, it opened last night, after last night's meeting, and that will run through February 25th. There'll be a link in the chat to that survey. You can fill that survey out tonight. You can wait to fill it out until February 25th. It'll just allow you to provide more feedback that you may have not been able to give us tonight. Virtual office hours, are going to take place Mondays and Wednesdays from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And this is your chance to talk one-on-one with a Prince George's County planning staff member. And then we're not only doing future engagements in the spring of 2020, we're doing future engagement meetings in the spring of 2022, and we'll also be doing continuing ongoing outreach throughout the entire process through 2023. So yes, Pat has just put the link up. If you're interested in signing up for office hours, you click that link and you can sign up. We're gonna, please stay tuned for online surveys that are going to be advertised through email, our website, and social media. We'll be using these online surveys and other creative online tools throughout the project to give you opportunities to provide input on this important planning effort. And like I said, our moderator, Pat, has already put that survey link and the office hours in the chat. So contact information. Let me say one more thing about the virtual office meetings. Like I said, this is a great opportunity for, to speak one-on-one with a community planner about this project specifically. Mondays and Wednesdays from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. So, definitely take advantage of that. That's a unique opportunity. I've worked on a lot of projects, and the amount of times that people have wanted, personal one-on-one interaction, and it hasn't been available, it has been much more regular than actually having it. So having this available is huge. Everything you see on the screen, Pat just put into the chat, the project website. If you, we use a bit.ly link to shorten it. It's bit.ly/MPOT2035. You can click the link right in the chat. You can email the project manager, Crystal Saunders Hancock, at crystal.hancock@ppd.mncppc.org. Or you can email Judith Howerton, the deputy project manager, at judith.howerton@ppd.mncppc.org. Or you can please follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the same handle, @PGPlanningMD. All right, so with that, we will take any additional questions. If you'd like to drop your question into the chat, please do so, or please feel free to come off of mute to ask a question, and we will have a member of the team answer that question. So give everybody a little bit to, if there's any questions that you haven't had answered so far, this is your time to ask. You drop them into the chat. Pat will read them as they come out. And like I said, again, if you want to come off of mute, feel free to do that, and you can ask your question verbally. Right, I know Halima had feedback earlier, and if you have a question, I know your mic wasn't working, Halima, if you have a question, feel free to put that in the chat. Any other questions? I'll give everybody another minute or so. If we don't have any questions, we will be finished for the evening, but I don't want to end without letting everyone have the opportunity to ask any additional questions. All right, so Pat, can you read out that first question from Halima?
Yep. So our first question here from Halima. She's asked, is there coordination with MDSHA, which is Maryland State Highway Administration?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, there has been coordination with Maryland State Highway Administration. They were invited to the agency meetings that we've been describing the feedback from. And we also held a Complete Streets training course where there was representation from Maryland State Highways Administration.
Thanks, Alex. All right, are there any more questions? And Judith's again, just put the project website in the chat. Give everybody another 30 seconds or so, and I don't believe we have anyone. Let me make sure. I don't believe we have anyone on the phone in this breakout room. Nope, we do not. All righty. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending the Master Plan of Transportation 2035 Countywide Community Engagement Meeting. We want to continue to hear from you, so please take a few minutes to help us by filling out the survey that's in the chat after the meeting. Our moderator will place the survey link in the chat. For more project information, you may visit the project website. That link is also in the chat. We really appreciate you all taking the time out tonight to meet with us. We know your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evening to provide us feedback so that we can make the MPOT 2035 as constructive for the community as possible. So with that, we are finished with the central breakout room. Again, thank you for joining and have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Helena.
Excellent facilitation.
Thank
Good
you.
work. Thank you very much. And thank you for accepting our folks from the South meeting into this one. Appreciate that.
So Odessa, I have for tomorrow night, I think what we need to do is we need to move the Slido example in the main presentation to a little bit later. Because like when we did it tonight, we had about 23 people. By the end of that presentation, we had 50 people in the so some people missed, and I think that would definitely help.
So maybe I'll do it twice because we definitely want to get people, maybe we'll just kind of bring the slide back up. So I'll add it and bring the slide back up.
That sounds good. Yeah, I definitely think that would be valuable because I think last night we had good Slido participation. Tonight,
It was a little harder.
It was, and
Yeah.
tonight actually it worked since Alex and I, came up with a good rhythm. I wish we would have been able to do this last night because I think we would have gotten even more feedback.
It was such a good interaction. I was really, Rick was doing that in the South room, but we just didn't have enough participants.
I
So,
was gonna say
Yeah.
that. I think it's the number of participants have something to do with it as well.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
because yesterday we had like 30 in the South room.
And
yeah, we had a much higher number than today.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, we had 16 at one point yesterday, and we were getting 9 or 10 people responding on Slido. So it was a really good response rate. We didn't come anywhere near that tonight, but it
Yeah.
was still a good discussion. We got some good details. So I
Yeah.
think we're good. Everyone is gone from the public, so.
yeah. And I think we're done in this room, and it looks like the North room is closing up as well. So thank you all so much for flexing with us, because when we realized we weren't getting participation, we said at least let's move into the central room where they could at least see the conversation and participate.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's great.
Yes. And thank you, Pat, for facilitating and saying welcome. So that's helpful. All right, all. Have a great evening.
All right, thanks,
Yep,
everybody.
thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
great
Yeah.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.